And it's time for the long-awaited first InDesign tutorial video. So I'm going to hop into InDesign. On the startup screen here, you can hit New, or in the drop-downs, go to File, New Document. But actually, before we do that, we need to change a preference. If you are on a PC, you need to go to the Edit menu. The last item at the bottom will be Preferences if you are on a PC. If you are on a Mac, if you go to InDesign in the drop-down menu and Preferences, and then PC or Mac, after you go to Preferences, go to General, and then click on the units and increments. It's about 6 down on the left here. And we want to change the ruler units for the horizontal 2 inches and the vertical 2 inches. There aren't a whole lot of people left around that understand setting type in points as a unit. And then we're going to go to File, New Document. So you could also use the New button here on the startup screen. That's going to open our new document dialog box. We're going to leave the document preset to default. Our intent is for print. For this demo, we're going to use 10 pages for setup. You want to make sure this facing pages stays checked. That will allow us to work in spreads. When you're working on a book, you always want to work in spreads. For our size, for the entirety of these InDesign demos here, the format that we're going to be using is the 10 by 8 landscape book setup from blurb.com. If you're not familiar with Blurb, it's an online printer that allows you to upload PDFs. They print and make your book and send it back to you. Okay, so these are the settings for a 10 by 8 landscape book, and the page width is actually 9.5 inches, and the page height is 8 inches. Here under columns, I'm going to leave this on the default. We're going to set up our grid on the master page once we have our document set up. And for margins, Blurb defines the minimum safe margin as 0.625. So if I type in 0.625 in the top here, and then I uncheck and recheck this chain, which links all of these margin boxes together, you'll see that that measurement cascades through. And then I want to hit the drop down next to this bleed and slug menu. So the bleed is the overprint so that you can have images or graphics run all the way to the edge of a page. The printer needs information beyond that page area to print to, and then they cut to the actual page size. So industry standard for a bleed is 1/8 of an inch or 0.125. Again, I'm going to do the same thing with the chain here, just uncheck and recheck. That'll cascade that measurement all the way through. Now I do actually want to uncheck this chain link because for Blurb, they do not have you put a bleed on the inside of the page. The inside of the page is the part of the page that goes into the binding of the book. So Blurb is being smart, saving themselves a little money and not printing that extra information there because it goes into the binding. You don't see it. It would be very wasteful to go ahead and print that. All right. From there, I'm going to hit OK, and this will create our document. All right, and if I click at the very top right hand of my tool palettes over here on the right hand side, it'll show my pages palette, and what I'm seeing is a thumbnail preview of my entire document. All right, let's talk about saving. Under File, save as. I'm just going to find a spot for this. You're going to want to give it a meaningful name. For me, that's Blurb Demo. All right, the format, you want to make sure that you're on InDesign Document. This will create a dot, as you can see up here in my save as, a .indd file. That is the native file extension for InDesign. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then let's talk about PDFs. All right. You can use the export menu. I find it a lot easier just under File, dead in the middle, Adobe PDF presets. These are set up and give you a really good starting point for exporting PDFs. If I was going to export this to email and for the purpose of emailing and I wanted a small file, I would use this smallest file size. We're going to export as if we're going to look at printing this as a test print. So Adobe PDF presets, high quality print. That's going to bring up our export dialog box. I generally don't change the name when I make PDFs unless it's something important where I have my personal name in the file name or something of that nature. From here, I'm just going to hit save, and this is going to bring up our export PDF dialog box. All right, Illustrator is pretty awesome with PDFs. The first thing you want to look at are the pages that you are exporting. You can export all of your pages, or for example, in the portfolio scenario, maybe you just want to export one project, and that's going to be pages 5 through 10, right? You want to make sure you're exporting pages and not spreads. I generally, under the options, leave the optimize and tagged checked. I also like to see my PDFs after they're created, so I'm going to click on View PDF after exporting. If your document has hyperlinks under Include here, you can include hyperlinks just by checking that box. All right. And then the other thing that we want to look at, over here in the left-hand menu, if you click on Marks and Bleeds. When you export to upload to Blurb, you need to ensure that you include the bleed area. So you want to use document bleed settings. All right. If you are test printing for yourself and you are going to print and then cut your pages to size, you want to